Apart from our political and religious differences since September 11th, Americans have started to become more aware of the rest of the world, especially the Middle East, and have started to take a closer look at us. I feel it is now our turn to take a new and closer look at them as well. For 1 week, I tried to move beyond the current crisis and traditional news coverage of the United States and the Middle East by traveling across the country to discover some basic American traditions and values that might be closer to our own than we think. I also wanted to address some of the stereotypes we have of Americans from television and movies.
People with fancy clothes and girls in tight pants and...
I don't think I fit. I don't think I fit. I drive a big truck, pull a trailer most of the time, or I'm riding a tractor.
My American journalist, host, and travel guide was Mike Siray, a foreign correspondent with Globe Television. While passing through Egypt and the Middle East on his way to cover the war in Afghanistan, he was struck by the huge communication and cultural gap between the two regions. He set up an exchange with American and Arab journalists like myself to try to close the gap caused by traditional news coverage and foreign policies.
We're doing some interviewing about...
At first, I was afraid of how Americans would react to a Muslim and Arab reporter as a result of the 9/11 tragedy. But the local reporters covering the visit told me how rare attacks on Muslims had been, just like how rare terrorist attacks have been on Americans in the Middle East, and how more curious Americans have become about Islam and the Middle East.
Doing a story about the Islamic Center, they've had more converts to Muslim faith since September 11th than they've had, previous.
There are more than 10 million Arabs and Muslims in the United States. In the large Arab communities of New Jersey, I was surprised to see how they have been able to maintain their culture. And I wondered why the voice is not as strong and effective as other nationalities. When we try to express ourselves, we speak with a shy and decent voice. But you cannot be shy or decent in politics when it comes to your self-interests. Politics is always like that. People might be always smiling, but they are looking out for their own good. In Prospect Park, New Jersey, I met Hassan Fahmy, the first Egyptian-born person to be elected as a public official in the United States. As the president of his city council, he is giving Arab Americans a larger voice and role in their community. You can consider me the perfect example. I moved to Prospect Park, and 6 months later, I was elected over my two rivals who were born here. And after a year in the council, I became the council president. He worked his way up from being a gas station attendant when he first came here in 1980 to transportation manager for a major American investment bank, where he met John Cosine, the company's chief executive officer, who successfully ran in the same election on the same Democratic ticket as Hassan for U.S. Senator from New Jersey.
America is based on a melting pot theory of all of us contributing from diverse backgrounds and cooperating. Hassan is a good example of the leadership within our Muslim community that has pulled together.
They are trying to maintain their language and their religion in two Arabic schools they have started in New Jersey. They teach Arabic, Islam, and the same basic academic curriculum as the public schools. Our students have to take the most difficult entrance exams for high schools, and they do very well compared to other public school students. I wanted to get out of the big cities and into the rural areas and what they call the heartland, where the average Americans might have more in common with average Egyptians when it comes to what's most important in their lives.
What we are looking for is the same thing that any person the world over is looking for. It's peace, it's prosperity, it's the right to live in a free environment and do what you want and strive for happiness. We're no different than anybody else the world over.
I am not a church-going person, but I believe in the Lord. I have a lot of friends that go to church every Sunday. Some go on Saturdays. Farming is a 24-hour-a-day job. And I can stand in the field and talk to the man upstairs anytime I want.
It seems that the society here is quite religious. While driving through Cedar Rapids, Iowa, I saw they had as many neighborhood churches as Cairo had mosques, and even more of them than McDonald's.
On almost every corner you see a church of some sort.
I'm surprised here it's everywhere, big ones and smaller ones. My most interesting discovery in Cedar Rapids was the oldest mosque in North America that Arab immigrants started building here in the middle of the country in 1924.
And this is the community at large, which is from the Arab descendant. And this is a Christian and Muslim Arabs.
The Imam calls it the Mother Mosque, and he told me how it was abandoned and turned into a Christian church for several years until local Muslims bought it back and registered it as an American historical site. It has also become a symbol of religious diversity here in the American heartland, where local Christian ministers and the Imam often meet to share their similarities rather than their differences.
Well, I think all religions are holy, and I believe all religions have pretty much the golden rule, do unto others.
So why do we have all of this conflict?
Well, I think it's because we as human beings sort of get focused on one particular track, and we refuse to consider other religions then, and begin to think that ours is the best way, and so everybody has to go our way. And that's one of the problems that things we have to overcome as we're trying to work together. And I think we've done that well here in our interreligious council.
In the Cedar Rapids New Islamic Center, I was invited to celebrate the first day of the Hajj feast with the local ministers and the Imam. To really get to know Americans, you have to separate the people from the institutions and the media. That's why I was so excited to come here to California, where they have many people, the entertainment industry, and major university with a mass communications program and a news program that represents our point of view.
Now we go to Amman.
In San Francisco, these Arab journalists are translating news programs from the Middle East to produce the only daily English broadcast of Arab news in the United States for satellite television, to make up for the lack of coverage from the major networks.
And Shireen Al-Wakil is from Egypt. And is
to better understand the American media's lack of coverage of the Middle East and other foreign issues, I went to the University of California at Berkeley's Graduate School of Journalism.
A lot of Americans who aren't quite as educated are more interested in seeing things about America because they don't think that internationally what happens affects them. And it's less governmental. I mean, it's part of our educational system. It's very systemic.
This could be changing for the next generation of students, like the ones I met at this high school, playing a word geography game and taking classes in Islamic history. At George Lucas's production facility, where they create the special effects for some of the world's most famous movies, like The Mummy, I was able to ask some of the creators of these movie images if they were aware of how some of these stereotypical images might be interpreted differently in other parts of the world.
My impression of it is that it was intended as very lighthearted entertainment, in the same way that many Hollywood action movies portray just about every character in there in an exaggerated way. Americans or whoever resort to stereotypes. I feel that more responsibility should be taken, and that a little more sensitivity, in some cases much more sensitivity, should be exercised in writing scripts and thoughtfulness in what kind of message is being sent to the audiences.
After spending a week with Americans in their homes, their schools, and their churches, I found more common interests than differences in our values and our hope for the future.
We're all human beings. Somewhere along the line, everybody has got to say we all have to get along somewhere. I can work for or with anyone, given the chance. And I'm sure those people over there feel the same way.
This is Shireen Al-Wakil, Egyptian Television, for Good Morning Egypt.